Hey there guys, welcome back to Kieran's Movie Space. This is my spoiler-free review of Daredevil Season 3. If you've been following this podcast for a while, you'll probably know that I'm a massive Marvel fan, and Daredevil is a series that I absolutely love talking about. But since I only started the podcast a few months ago, I never really got a chance to review the first two seasons. But long story short, I think the first season is incredible, and while I don't think the second season was quite as good, I still really enjoyed it overall. So with that said, you can probably imagine how excited I've been for Season 3, which finally landed on Netflix last Friday. As usual, I spent the weekend working through the episodes, and now I'm here to give you guys my spoiler-free review, and we might as well just get straight into the review, starting with what I liked about Season 3, and the first thing I want to say is that they've done a really good job with the story for this season. I've found with a lot of the Marvel Netflix shows, especially Luke Cage and Iron Fist, that the writers really just depend on the characters and don't really focus on telling a decent story. But I've always depended on Daredevil to give us an engaging, compelling and surprising story, and the writers really didn't disappoint with Season 3. Obviously I don't want to spoil anything, but the story this year is really fun to watch. It follows on from the Defenders in a really cool way, and unlike most seasons, this one doesn't take long to get to the good stuff. From the opening frame of the season, we're really invested in the story, and we're thrown straight back into this really brutal and really entertaining world. This season also did an awesome job at developing the characters and delving further into Matt Murdock, who's in a really dark place at the beginning of this season. He's broken, he's been beaten, and this season really forces Matt to question his faith and ask some serious questions that lead to some really surprising and some really exciting answers. More than ever before, this season of Daredevil really focuses on the man under the mask and shows a side of being a superhero that we've never really seen before in films or on TV. You really get to know who Matt Murdock is underneath all of the anger and all of the pain, and we only rarely get to see our heroes explored in this much depth. Obviously, Season 3 also sees the return of Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk, who continues to be the most interesting, sympathetic, and compelling villain in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Fisk is scarier than ever this season, and the writers do a brilliant job of putting you in his position. When you're watching the season, there are certain moments in the middle that paint Fisk as the good guy, and you almost see Daredevil as the villain. And we never get to see a bad guy from that perspective. It was really interesting and really fresh, and I think that's the reason why Daredevil will never really work without Wilson Fisk involved in one way or another. We also get a lot of development for the supporting characters, especially Karen, who gets a really cool arc this season. We learn more about her past, we finally figure out what happened to her brother, and while I found Karen to be quite an annoying character in the past, I really enjoyed what the writers did with her this season, and that goes for Foggy as well. Foggy's given more to do this season, and he becomes more than just the whiny best friend. He has his own story, he contributes to the main narrative more, and overall the friendship between Matt, Foggy and Karen just feels more concrete and more realistic this season. As I imagine you'll already know, this season also introduces a few really cool new characters. Since it was revealed in the trailers, I'm guessing it's not too much of a spoiler to say that they introduced Bullseye, and he really comes into this show and is immediately threatening. He's a major character in the story. He is kind of a secondary villain to Kingpin, but don't worry, it's not a Spider-Man 3 situation. It never feels like he's been shoehorned in to please the fans, and I actually think comic book readers will be more than impressed with this introduction and this portrayal of Bullseye. We also meet FBI agent Nadeem, and this was the character that had me a little bit worried at the start of the season, just because I didn't want this new character and this new storyline to distract from what's going on between Daredevil and Fisk. But they actually won me over with this quite quickly. I ended up really enjoying what they did with Nadeem and where they took his character, but I can't really say anything more than that without spoiling, so I'll just move on. And another thing that I really liked about this season was that they basically took everything that didn't work in Season 2 and got rid of it and kind of went back to basics this season. Like I said, I really enjoyed Season 2, but one of the things that I think stopped it from being great was the multiple storylines that were going on at the same time. We obviously had the Frank Castle storyline, then all the stuff with Elektra, and after a while, all those different storylines just got in the way of Matt's journey. But as I already said, this season really turns its focus towards Matt, and while there are smaller storylines going on with some of the other characters, they all serve the main narrative, and it never feels like we're watching one thing when we'd rather be watching something else. Action and violence have always been vital elements of Daredevil, and this season delivers some truly mind-blowing action sequences. We get all of the close contact fights that we're used to, and they're just as brutal and just as bloody as we've come to expect. But then there's a few large-scale action sequences this season that are some of the best that I've ever seen in the comic book genre. There's one scene in particular that just completely wrecks your mind. It's a callback to the hallway fight from season 1, but it's so much bigger and so much longer and cooler, and fans are gonna absolutely lose their shit when they see it. Everyone involved this season really stepped it up when it came to the action, and all of that effort and all of that commitment shows on screen. Since this is a review, I do have to talk about some of the stuff that I didn't like about the season, and thankfully I don't really have many issues. In fact, my only real issue was that the pacing seemed to really slow down quite a bit in the middle. It's something that happens quite often with Netflix shows, and it does only happen for a brief moment with Daredevil season 3, but there is maybe 1 or 2 episodes in the middle that just slow everything down. I get why they needed to continue the story and they couldn't just keep going at that speed, but I just wish they'd done something to keep it feeling fast and keep it feeling energized. But that really is just a nitpick in what is otherwise a brilliant season of television. All in all, Daredevil season 3 is everything fans have been waiting for and more. Marvel's delivered yet another action-packed and emotional journey for the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, which gives us some awesome character development, some interesting new characters, and more than a few mind-blowing action scenes. Daredevil season 3 is not only the best season of Marvel television, it's one of the greatest comic book adaptations of all time, and that's why I'm giving this season a 10 out of 10. There are some pacing issues, but when you finish the season, you'll find it very difficult to think of anything that you didn't enjoy. So with that score comes the end of this review. Have you finished season 3? Let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and share, and if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you hit subscribe. Thanks for listening, I'll see you next time.